G'day, my name's Ben Aquilina. I sail here on Sydney Hobart. I've been sailing since I was about 8 or 9 years old. First started sailing when I was in primary school. A couple of mates from primary school were going on I guess the equivalent of a little tackers course. My family has never been involved in sailing, never owned a boat, so something that was very new to my family. And when you live on such a beautiful harbour as Sydney Hobart, didn't really appreciate it as a kid, but figured why not get out on the water, and decided to go to MySail Harbour Yacht Club one day and join a few friends for a 4-week course, and that was it. So I guess I did a lot of dinghy sailing when I was a kid. Learned the basics. I did a fair bit of competitive racing, states and nationals and things like that. When I left high school, I did a gap year and over in the UK, and it was a bit cold for sailing up in the Lakes District. I tried once or twice, but it was freezing my backside off. So when I came back to Sydney, got heavily into uni and sort of really stopped for 4 or 5 years. In the dinghy sailing, and I found that when I came back, I went to the Food and Wine Festival down in Hobart a few years ago, and that is the same time in which the Sydney Hobart Yacht Race is finishing. Watching all the boats came in, I guess, triggered a bit of nostalgia for going sailing again. And I thought, I really gave it a mission that I need to get back into sailing somehow, whether it's yachts or dinghies. I just love being out on the water. I very much couldn't really find a way in. I messaged a few clubs, dinghy clubs, and sort of struggled really I found that you either needed to own a boat, or there was a limited time in which you could rent a boat, or you really had to be good mates or be able to crew on a 49er or a 29er or something like that. So did the whole Gen Y millennial thing and Googled how to get into yacht racing in Sydney again, which is not the most professional thing to do, but a bit of fun, and found the MySail website. Decided to throw my name down, and wasn't expecting too much. Wasn't expecting people to really message back. And about 2 weeks later, I got a message from a guy named Brian at Middle Harbour Yacht Club, who said, come down. I explained that I hadn't sailed. I knew how to sail. I would sailing dinghies most of my life, but he really sort of said, no, that's fine. I'm happy to have new people on board. I'm happy to have people learning on board. It's just about getting people back into sailing, and that was a few years ago now, and pretty much stuck ever since, and stayed with Brian, still sailing with Brian to this day, and still sailing with a few other boat bits and pieces. So that's really how I got back into it again. I think there's a real sense of camaraderie on a yacht that you don't necessarily get when you're out sailing races or dinghies. You do get it with 1 or 2 people, but when there's 4 or 5 people, you're constantly meeting new people. I always say sailing's a lot about networking as well. It's a lot about learning, meeting new people, learning new boats. Every boat is slightly different. Some skippers like to do things one way that other skippers don't. So it's that constant learning experience and that constant camaraderie that you really get. And then obviously going back to the club afterwards and having a beer is always, pretty nice when you're looking at it. I was originally sailing. I found a crew, got messaged through MySail who wanted to do some pretty serious racing this year. They wanted to do the winter series, building up the Gold Coast, do the Blue Water Point Score series through onto the Hobart, and which is some pretty serious racing. It's something that I wanted to do. Unfortunately, about 2 weeks out from the race, they pulled the boat out of the water as part of its inspections and found the keel had some issues with it. It was slightly structurally overweight. I won't go too much into it, which meant they had to pull out of Sydney to Gold Coast, which was quite disappointing because we'd done a fair bit of preparation for it. We then I then got a message about a week and a half beforehand, once again sort of through MySail, from Tony on the TSA management boat, which is a Sydney 38. They messaged me on about the Thursday beforehand. I said, sure, I'll come down on a Saturday and we'll do a bit of a training run. Important to spend a few hours doing a training run with them. Found I really gelled with the crew, found that the boat was really well set up as well, so I decided that, hey, give it a go, I'll go up to the Gold Coast with them, and Bob's your uncle, there you go. I think it was a fantastic experience, that race. I think it was a pretty calm race. In fact, I think it's windier today than it was at any point during the race. We had the sail up, we had the spinnaker up, the square spinnaker up for the first 28 hours or so. So it was a pretty quick run at the beginning, doing 10 to 12 knots in Sydney 38 straight up the coast. Then died off a little bit from there, but it was absolutely magical. I think, my favourite part of it is at about 3 o'clock in the morning, when you're absolutely shattered and you look up and there's not a cloud in the sky. You've got the spinnaker up, and I think we had a couple of dolphins around, and had a bit of phosphorescence in the water as well, which just made it a pretty spectacular time to be sailing. It was pretty champagne sailing all the way up, so really enjoyed that. Fantastic to finish at Southport Yacht Club. I think we arrived about 10 o'clock at night. I don't think we got to bed till 4 o'clock in the morning, just celebrating with the other crews the finish as well. There was a big fleet that all arrived around the same time, so fantastic experience. Met some great people on the boat. I think they were a fantastic crew, and it was lucky that I managed to get on the boat last minute. It was a bit of a last minute call up, but I think that's the advantage of getting, knowing different people and sort of building your reputation through sailing, which is good fun. I think one key piece of advice, it's always a bit nerve-wracking first meeting up with a skipper you don't know. I think the MySail website definitely helped get an idea as to what type of boats are out there, what type of boats you want to go on. Messaging a few skippers as well. Being honest with your experience is very important as well, saying, I know how to do these particular positions, or these are the number of years I've had experience, and that really gives the skipper a good idea of what you're capable of, what your skill set is. And it also means that when you come down to do that first sail with them, there isn't a level of expectation put on you, but there isn't a level of expectation that they believe. And I think sometimes it's about, don't go straight into a big race, go for a bit of a weekend sail with them, jump on the boat, get to know it. Every boat's different as well. I think there are a few key things that I've found. I find that every time I do go on a new boat or meet a new skipper, it does feel like a bit of a job interview. They always deal with going and joining a new company. It does feel like there's something slightly different, so there's always that element of nerves the first time you jump on a boat. But there are plenty of skippers out there who just love the sport and love bringing new people into the sport, and they will teach you the basics. They will show you the ropes effectively, and they just being open and honest and saying, this is what my skill set is and this is what I'm capable of. Some really want learners on there, and they really want to show people about the sport and introduce them to the sport. So I think that's something that's important. And when you first get into sailing, you don't need to buy all the kit. I have and I still to this day wear a $20 pair of Dunlop volleys. I think they're the best sailing shoes on the water. Dunlop volleys, board shorts, and a good jumper will get you started. So, and I think you don't have to have money is the other thing I found. My parents were shocked when we first got into sailing. They were thinking, they're going to have to fork out an absolute fortune, but I think they found out it was probably cheaper than all the cricket gear that my sister had to buy when she was playing cricket. So, really accessible sport, and I think it's surprisingly accessible to people. Next sailing goals. So, one question I always get asked whenever I tell people who don't know much about sailing is, have you done a Sydney to Hobart? And I can say no, I haven't done a Sydney to Hobart, but I guess I really want to be able to say I've done a Sydney to Hobart, and that's something that you know, as a kid, when you grow up in Sydney on Boxing Day and you hang out at the headlands having a picnic, eating all your leftover Christmas food, and you watch the boats go out, that's something that you always want to do as a kid growing up in Sydney, and so it's something that I just need to tick off. Really, just need to get that off the bucket list, and I think then, you know, what happens after that? A lot more sailing, I think. Just get bigger and better from there. But that's the next goal, and hopefully I get in this. I've got a boat lined up for this year, and we'll see how that goes. So should be good fun.